Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the CIAS podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Jake Gosselin, coming to us live from Colorado. And sadly, Colorado, I know I'm being selfish, but you actually are in Florida for more of the year, but you're in Colorado now, so I'm excited to be doing this. We connected amazingly through Rock Harbor Church, which is very random, but also that's kind of how God rolls. So I'm excited for the audience to get to know you. And so I like to always start at the beginning, man. How did you kind of get started with music in the first place?
Dude, yeah. When you say joined by a good friend, you actually mean it too, right? It's like it's fun to do podcasts with actual friends. When I'm in Florida, I feel like you and your family are the ones we probably hang out with most of the time. So whenever we have that free time, so great to be here. And my music journey started back when I was like in fifth grade. Started playing the bass guitar in church. So I've always known church music.
The best place to start.
Then in high school, I had some weird homeschool friends who invited me to join their garage band. And that's when we started playing like Blink-182 and Green Day and Under Oath and all the emo punk bands back in the first decade of the 2000s. And around that time, I got more serious about music. I was a good student in school, so I was thinking I was going to go into like engineering or something. But then once I really started to love music in high school, especially because of playing in that garage band, I leaned into it more. And around my junior year of high school, that's when I actually started leading worship on a regular basis at my church. So I actually had no clue what I was doing. And it's probably one of the best ways to learn is each Sunday I was picking some songs because my pastor at the time, he was actually the one leading worship. And I think he was excited to have a break from having to do that and preaching every Sunday. So when he saw that I had potential, he's like, yeah, Jake, how about you take care of this now? And I'm like, great. I barely know how to play a G chord on a guitar, but each week I picked out my songs and that's how I learned new chords, depending on what new songs I picked and what chords were in that song. And then it kind of took off from there. Went to college for music to pursue worship ministry sort of as a career, and did the 4-year college thing, studied music, and met my wife there, Kaylee. We were both in worship ministry. And then we went to seminary after that to pursue really just like pastoral ministry. So my whole education career was for music and pastoral ministry. And that's kind of been my life ever since. But after seminary, pivoted more into the entrepreneurship world of trying to solve problems for other people, which were originally my problems as a musician in the church, not understanding technology, how to leverage it, how to do things like mix audio, how to work cameras for a church live stream. And that sort of, evolved into CHURCHFRONT. So that's my full-time thing now, consulting churches, doing audio-visual installs for churches. We have the YouTube channel. CHURCHFRONT puts out a lot of media, but this Sunday I'm leading worship at my church. So it's still a big part of what I do. And even, I know a lot of you guys are thinking about songwriting. I wish I had more time for songwriting. That was one of my things initially early on back in high school. I first started getting into worship music. I started to write songs and, I was looking at the book of Psalms and different verses in the Bible and setting them to my own music and writing things. So that was a good time. I did that more in college, but then life kind of happens. And I think my passion definitely has been more around the technology side of church music.
Yeah, that's great. And so one thing is, we actually haven't really talked about this a lot, but the seminary side. So did you guys kind of have plans to use that for like pastorally leading a church, or was it more specifically geared towards like music and kind of worship ministry?
Yeah, evolved from I wanted to be a more pastorally minded worship leader to then being like, I think I might plant a church someday. So I think I just wanted to get all the training to be an actual lead pastor to plant a church. And I think those entrepreneurial inclinations I had to like start something like ended up being starting CHURCHFRONT, which is this kind of, I would call it para-church business at this point, instead of like planting a church itself. But it was really helpful in my journey of just understanding churches better and how I can better serve them with what I'm doing now. There's definitely part of me that's like, did I really need to do seminary? It would have been nice to have like an extra like 4-year start on CHURCHFRONT, what I'm doing now. But it's all in God's purpose and timing.
Yeah, I don't know if Graham Cochran's a guy that I follow. He started the Recording Revolution YouTube channel, but now he's like a big dog, like online business coach. He does content and stuff. So I've been following his work for a while. And one of the things that he was mentioning recently, he's putting out like a new book or whatever, but he was talking about dreams. Okay. And we have these like dreams, and sometimes dreams, quote unquote, die. But, and then it's, what do we do with it? Does that cause us to kind of like, okay, we blew it, we're done, let's just go with the flow and do the thing that we don't really want to do? Or do we say, hey, dreams, maybe that framework of that dream, there's a bigger picture above what the actual thing was. So, like trying to just do the, tradition, whatever traditional means, worship ministry with the MDiv and all that, doing that thing. Really what that could have been is you were kind of seeking a creative, faith-based field that you could serve churches in that way. So, and that's what like you literally said, CHURCHFRONT is like a para ministry. So you're doing that. It's just that dream, the only one that you knew at the time, because that's like, the most common way to do it, kind of has evolved and changed into what it is now. So I love that. And I think the thing that's cool, and even as we've talked, like CHURCHFRONT itself has evolved a ton just in the past year or so that we've been hanging out. So I mean, like that dream is always kind of changing and reshifting. So I know that there was some stuff before though, and I kind of want to lean into that as you were kind of take the everyone back to like when you were like, okay, worship ministry maybe isn't the thing, but I like cameras, maybe I can do something with filming. And I know there's part of the wedding story, so kind of give a brief run of like how you got from like worship pastor dude to CHURCHFRONT guy.
Yeah, I discovered my interest in just being a creative towards the end of college. So after college, when I feel like in college I spent so much of my time learning music, getting better at music, and also diving into the world of theology, just becoming better at thinking intellectually about our faith and starting to think more pastorally about it too. I think the pastoral stuff more comes with age and experience, though. If I'm honest, speaking in hindsight,
for sure,
I'm like, man, I wouldn't want 22 Jake to be anything in any sort of pastoral role if I were making those hiring decisions. But it was around that time, though. One of my friends, Lucas, he was a friend in college, and today he's like a award-winning video editor for like a really amazing video production company, and he's like edited stuff that's been featured in Sundance maybe or South by Southwest. I don't really know the film world, but there's all sorts of like the people who are like the best at it. He's one of them now. Okay, and he was an inspiration. Even he was doing like amateur professional camera video projects at college, and I saw how he was doing it just with a basic DSLR camera. And around that time, I'm like, oh, I think I could get into that. And it would come in handy, especially for the churches I was working at the time, to like help them with marketing and creative media. And that's where it all started, just as a hobby, a way to be able to, as a worship leader, help the church creatively. And then the next thing I knew like someone who saw some of my work was like, hey, can you film this like interview video for me for a marketing project? I'll give you $150. And that was like my first like paid gig ever to make a video. And then someone else saw that video work and was like, hey, I'm a wedding photographer and I have a lot of clients who need video. Would you be okay if I just referred them to you? And I was like, sure. Never really did it, but I just figured it out. Right. It was like a lot of opportunity. Like when you just start doing things, opportunity just keeps coming. And that's where it's sad when people just kind of sit on their butt all day and think opportunity magically shows up. But after over a decade now in the creative and entrepreneurship world, you have to just get up and do every day, and then massive opportunity will come over time. But it's also like an exponential growth curve where the first few years it seems really slow. You're making a little bit of progress. And then now I feel like, especially in the past couple of years, I'm in that like compounding part where the chart is going faster than I can even keep up with it. So that's how it started for me. It's just like hobby, creative work, photo, video, every opportunity I could to just we're in Colorado here, so it's a great place to get outside and take photos and do cool time lapse videos. I took all those opportunities, and then when people started paying me, I kind of leaned into that and started learning everything about business, and that gave me the freedom and flexibility when I was in a worship leader job at a church that I wasn't super excited about being at. My side hustle video income basically replaced my salary. And I was like, great, I don't have to be tied down at this church anymore. I'm going to go full time in video production, and I'm going to pursue this dream I have about this online business I want to build called CHURCHFRONT. And that's kind of how that all evolved.
Man, that's so good. And now this is obviously a secular term, but I'd say like the harder you work, the luckier you get, right? So like in our, in this situation, it's like the more that you do, and of course there's going to be a lot of things that you find walls and you can't, it's not meant for us, but yeah, just doing stuff. I remember I had a friend and he was like, man, I wish I would have learned music production. And I'm like, you're alive, you still can, but I think that's the mentality. And I feel like we've all I know I've felt that before. Like, oh man, that's it. Like, I wish I would have done that or whatever. It's like, no, like as long as you're breathing, there's still opportunity to do anything. So I love that. So, okay. So let's go to the origin story of CHURCHFRONT. I know that you started off as the Ableton guy and stuff. So as you transition, when were you like, I'm going to take my video skills and start posting this stuff on YouTube, and kind of walk us through that origin story a bit?
I was here at a church in Littleton, a couple miles from my house still. And I know the folks at that church, great folks. But that was also the church where it's just like values and stuff and mission of the church didn't align where I was at. But I was still there, excited about the role, and I wanted to really help. This is a church that had a traditional and contemporary worship service, and they wanted to be able to just like move things forward and modernize things a little bit more, reach younger families. So, and that's just my nature. I like to make things better and push things forward. So at that church, I was in your typical situation where the church had like equipment that was probably 15, 20 years old, pretty dated, especially when the year was 2015. And in the 2010s, a lot of significant improvements came out with like mixing consoles becoming more affordable and like having digital equipment. And this church was just all outdated. So like I felt like I was just in the middle of this like shift in technology as a worship leader. But and I was smart enough I've always been like capable enough to kind of brute force learn something by just like diving in, trying it, experimenting, wasting a ton of time, but eventually I figure it out. There's something stubborn about me that's willing to stick with things until it's figured out. And that's led to a lot of great things in my life, but it's hard and frustrating. So around that time, I was brute force learning a lot of things about sound and making improvements. And then I had some wins and I was starting to figuring it out. And one thing I discovered around that time too is I'm pretty good at like researching and learning new things by searching YouTube or Google when I'm trying to figure out like how to automate lyrics and worship with Ableton Live, right? If people aren't familiar with Ableton, it's another DAW. It's great for live track performance to like, you can obviously produce in it. I think it's more popular in the kind of the EDM artist world, but for like DJs or people playing back tracks in a live environment, like worship bands, it's a great tool to use because you can not only play back audio, but you can send out MIDI triggers to trigger things like your lyric slides, lighting cues, anything else that can receive a MIDI cue. You can automate and tell it what to do. So I was trying to figure that out, and I found some helpful videos online, but they were quasi helpful. And once I finally figured it out for the most part for myself, I'm like, man, I could turn around and explain this to someone else so much better and so much simply. And I think that's been my superpower. And that's what I discovered back then was it's a lot of work and time to learn new systems and processes and approaches. And there's just a lot of opportunity to be able to package that in a way that like non-technical people can learn these skills. So that's what I did. And that's kind of what birthed CHURCHFRONT. I was like, wow, I could teach other people how to use Ableton. I could teach other people how to use the sound console, because this is a secret, is that most of the things you want to learn, when you just break them down to their fundamental steps or building blocks, like anybody can learn them. You just got to find like the right packaging. Like if you can take the most complicated Lego out there, and if you just follow the step-by-step instructions, you can build it. Like my 6-year-olds can build a pretty extravagant Lego because they have a simple step-by-step process. But what a lot of people do is they look at a Lego, they're like, oh man, I could never do it. And they never try. And they're not aware, or nobody ever tells them, oh, here's the step-by-step instructions. It's going to be time consuming. You still got to have the focus and like ability to stick with it, but eventually you get there. So with CHURCHFRONT, I started putting stuff on YouTube. I started making blog posts, built an email list, and very quickly, this was around 2016, 2017, it just started taking off because there was a lack of this content out there, and people were loving it. They're like, oh my word, this is super helpful for my church. And now, however many years later, eight years later, we have 260,000 subscribers, 70,000 on the email list, lots of customers, and it's still feeding our business with new opportunity every single day.
Yeah. I think, especially I feel like in the tech side, people feel like it's impressive to be like complicated and make things difficult. I feel like there is something to that, because I know that for me, like even in my own experience, I'll get like the most like, interesting comments, like pointing out everything I'm doing wrong in my video from like technically minded people, because I think there's something to like, they want to have the cheat code, like only this group of people knows how to do this specific thing. But realistically, simplifying those processes is what makes it accessible. So it's no surprise to me that in 2016, when you start rolling stuff out in a language that people understand, because you started off on the other side of it too, you bring that stage perspective, not just the booth perspective. People are like, wow, I can actually implement this because it doesn't sound like a foreign language to me, So, so that makes total sense. So, okay, so now YouTube started, it's grown. The thing that I'm seeing now is it's the tech tours. I mean, that one from a week or so ago, I know this, it'll date it whenever someone's listening to this, but it means like 120,000 views or something in just a week or two. I mean, it's unbelievable how much people are leaning into this stuff. So like a little bit on the technical nerdy side, like when you're thinking through, content, because that's ultimately whether, you're doing this type of content or you're doing, songwriting, whatever kind of content, like obviously you have some kind of a strategy or you're responding to the needs. Like how are you kind of deciding the type of content? And I know it's changed a bunch along the way, but like in today, like how has that kind of evolved for you from Ableton videos to full on tech church reviews?
The simplest framework I like to articulate this strategy in is one that Alex Hormozi, he's kind of the current entrepreneurship business guru, social media guru today. A few years ago, it would have been like Gary Vaynerchuk. And now Alex Hormozi, I think he's the king of this space, because he's actually, for someone who's followed his advice for a few years now, like it's actually significantly grown my own business. Like the dude's legit. Like the advice he gives is very simple, but not easy. There's a lot of things that I've done and I still do that are simple, but they're not easy. Like, and that's where people get tripped a little bit. Like, because I can be like, oh yeah, just keep making a YouTube video once a week for 8 years. It's like simple, not easy. And the best piece of advice Alex Hormozi has about social content, and this is what I share with people, is step one is do cool stuff. He uses another word instead of stuff, with another 4-letter word because it kind of has a better ring to it. But we'll keep it clean here. So step one is like, do cool stuff. A lot of the best content it's going to come from that first step of, okay, my world, it's back at the beginning of CHURCHFRONT. The cool stuff was automating things with Ableton Live, right? I was putting in the time and effort behind the scenes in obscurity as a worship leader, trying to figure out tech. I was putting in that time and effort to learn a cool thing, which was using Ableton to do all this cool stuff in my ministry, right? And then step number 2, tell people how you do cool stuff. And that's it. You literally turn around, you document it. It's the easiest time in history to document how to do things with your phone. And then you post it online and you just show people, here's how we did it. And then people are going to find that. Other people who are trying to figure that out, how to do that cool stuff, they're going to search for it. your videos are going to start ranking, and sometimes they might have some virality to it, especially as you kind of get better at that creative process. But it's really simple as that, because if you do cool stuff, there's a high chance it's going to answer questions people are already asking. And that's how you're going to get discovered in an evergreen way on these platforms versus, you can do the short viral things. But to me, that's mostly fleeting. With CHURCHFRONT, I don't put a lot of time and effort into TikTok and Instagram. People still discover us that way, but YouTube has been, and I still think it's the king of all content online and media online, and it pays way better dividends in the long runs. So today, fast forward 8 years, now CHURCHFRONT's doing full-on integration AVL projects where we are working with budgets anywhere from $100,000 up to $250,000 for church installs, and we're the only integrator taking the time to actually document how we do this and how we design things. And really, we're doing cool stuff, which is like building a new system for a church with the latest cutting edge shock technology. And then we're telling people how do we do cool stuff. And then, like you said, that video a couple weeks ago, that was a project in a church in California. We're really proud of it. We made a 25, 30-minute YouTube video that walks through the setup. And now that video has like 120,000 views a couple weeks later. And our email inbox is full of people being like, we want you to build our new AVL system at our church, right? So that is, the opportunity is coming like crazy because we did cool stuff and we showed people how we do cool stuff. That's it.
Yeah. Two follow-up questions. How do you decide or know what is cool stuff? Because someone was going to be like, I get it, that is simple, but how do I know what is cool? So how do you define that thing? Because obviously it's changed along the way.
Okay, when I got started, it did start with things that intuitively I was just like, wow, this is cool. Like, there's a good chance, like, if intuitively you sense something's cool and other people should know about it, like, if you put it out there, people are gonna react to it and probably search for it, and they will think it's cool. But when you're building an audience initially, it's important to just ask them survey questions. Be like, hey, what's your greatest challenge right now? Maybe just like focus on what are people's pain points. And they'll tell you, and then from those pain points, you'll be able to turn around and start making content around those topics. And the other thing too is just like, this is why you just have to put reps in and put stuff out there to see what people react to and what they want. So on our channel, the technology focused tour videos that we do of churches, like tech tours, like those have always performed well. People love them. It's because it's similar to, I like watching those real estate shows where they just do like house walkthroughs and things like that. It's similar for our space where we're just doing a walkthrough of church AVL setup, and they're all kind of the same, but they're also different in the same way all houses have bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchens, but like it's always entertaining to see the architect's unique take on each of them for different houses. So survey people, ask them what they're struggling with, what they want to learn about. That was huge for me as I got going. And then just kind of let the algorithm tell you what people think is cool.
Yeah, that's so good. And it is, that's the thing is like, we can have the coolest idea or something we think is really cool and spend all this time and energy on it and then put it out there. But if no one asked for it, sure, it might naturally find its way to people. But ultimately, like, it just cuts out so much time and energy to literally just ask. That's like the greatest part about the internet is like you can, and it too, that was the other follow-up question is like, how much have you found that the community, the relationships is kind of, because, I feel like the internet does a great job of allowing us to connect in a virtual way, but also it really allows us to disconnect in like a physical way. But obviously the YouTube has brought you physically all over the country to do work with churches and stuff like that. So like, how important has taking the extra effort to build relationships and community connections to what you're doing now?
Yeah, it's been a huge part of building CHURCHFRONT. Even though I'm not naturally an extrovert, like I don't naturally want to go out of my way to like talk and hang out with new people every day. Professionally, I know how to be an extrovert and do that, and that's I do enjoy it, like the actual process of it, but. Yeah. again, it's a weird thing where I'm like, I was like, as I've been doing them, I'm like, why is nobody else doing this? Because it's kind of easy. Like, especially earlier on, I just did as many collaborations as I could with other content creators in the space. And that was also huge in just kind of building the brand and the social media platform presence. And I just emailed people and asked them, it's like, hey, can we collaborate on some content? Here's some ideas I have. I'll travel to you. So to make it as easy as possible. And then it was fun because then I did that, and then they were a new friend, and these relationships have been extremely valuable over the years. And then, then there's the community side of it where we want to get the CHURCHFRONT community together of our actual audience and our customers. So we do an event every single year, and that's been huge. Then we have a Facebook group. We have more than like 10,000 or I don't know, 13,000 people in a Facebook group. And it doesn't have to be me serving the community the whole time. They all see each other. So a lot of it's just kind of curating that space for people to connect with each other. A lot of cool things happen there too.
Yeah. So it really does come down to like actual authentic connection, and the thing that's great about, like you said, with these church like tech tours is, I think, because I love thinking about this stuff. And like, I feel like one of the reasons that they work so well is because everyone wants to have that fly on the wall perspective, that a darker way to say it's the voyeurism. Like they're nosy and they want to know what's going on. And you're opening that virtual door to give them the whole experience. And one, it'll answer questions for them about like, oh, that's how they decided to put that IEM system in that rack. But also all the while, it's just building gobs of trust because they are like literally over your shoulder with you, starting to, whether they realize it or not, you're building that authority. And so that I actually had a text and I didn't send it to you, but I was curious to know how much the new video was filling up your inbox. So it makes sense that it's going great. So that's awesome.
Speaking to the trust thing, especially with such large projects churches have to undergo if they're going to do a full-on AVL install. And you know what that's like. You've been through that at your previous church you're at, of like the decisions that have to be made, the amount of money that's being invested. And what I'm hoping is our team has no way to take on every single church AVL project in the country. Like maybe 20, 30 years from now we could, but like not right now. We are like we're already tapped out with the growth that we're doing. But I'm hoping people watch our videos and we're being very transparent about what all goes into the AVL process. Like this last video I made, I was like telling the viewers like, hey, these are some nice custom stage pockets we put in on the stage. They're really nice, but they're also really expensive. So just beware of that. Like when you want to bid them out, like don't be surprised. You want to have like 48 channels worth of stage pockets that are custom on your stage. It's probably going to be a $10,000 to $15,000 bill on your integration process, right? I want to like, because and I show them, because you have to terminate everything. You have to run the cable. All the connectors are custom. It's just like things that I know if when I was a worship leader, I never would have thought about the time and cost that would go into it. So then when they have conversations, whether it's with our team or with other integration companies, they can just be more educated about that process.
Right.
And they can look at the proposals that they're getting with more knowledge of what's going on. And you're right. That's why we're trying to not only just build trust with us, but hopefully just kind of helps the broader church at large as they navigate this.
Yeah, you're serving the greater community and, like you said, educating them to where they know, like, if somebody's like, yeah, we can get you that microphone, it's $15,000. Like, no, not that, the benefit of the doubt is that no one's trying to rip people off, but we know the more educated you are, the better decisions you can make. So, whether they hire you to do integration, or, because also, you can talk about this too, because this is a community aspect. You offer coaching to your clients, you kind of go virtually or in person in some cases. So can you kind of walk through that process of how you're actually like, boots on the ground, as they say, like working directly with churches to educate them, in that coaching type of way?
Yeah. CHURCHFRONT was first a online course business, and we still do that. We have our online courses. We still sell and we still make them. And then we kind of evolved into consulting of like getting on calls with people remotely, consulting them through through worship and production ministry. And now we've evolved into the integration, AVL install side of what we do. But it all usually starts with people find us on YouTube and they need some sort of help. It might just be like, hey, I want to learn how to run tracks in worship, or how to be better at mixing worship, whatever it is, right? And they reach out, and usually the first best step for everybody is our consulting program, where they get the courses and they get the coaching from us. It's kind of this hybrid learning experience. And for some of them too, we actually get boots on the ground at their church, especially if they tell us like, yeah, we want to upgrade this, and that tech wise. Like, we're like, okay, just we got to get a team member out there so we can do a better site survey and see what's going on. So what we do is like we charge for the consulting and design services up front for all of our church clients. So like they're kind of getting us first as a consultant, and we can really help them diagnose problems and design the right solutions for their church. And then we can build out designs for like, okay, if you need a new PA system, like here's the one we recommend, here's the cost, here's everything that entails, here's a new live streaming broadcast system. And they get all the designs, and we hand that over to them, and we'll give them a proposal like any other AVL integrator would. And then they can do what they want with it. They can work on getting that approved, and we can take care of the project. Or if they want to go check out bids from other integrators, they can. But for us, we found the best experience, instead of kind of playing this other AVL installer game where a church is like, we want a new system, and they try to get like a bunch of quotes and bids together and just go with like the lowest price or something like that. Like for us, it's like, no, we really prioritize like the right design and approach. We would love it if you would go with us on the actual project and the install, but you're not committing to that just because you join our consulting program. So for us, it's kind of like you have the same customer on this journey that starts with maybe buying $100 course, and then it might go to a multi-$1,000 consulting package, and then it could go to like $100,000 AVL package. But at each step of the way, like the customer determines like if they want to take that next step and how much they work with us.
And I think it all points back to, and I feel like this is why we get along so well, is because it's a servant leadership situation. That's how the reason it's parachurch is, because you're not just saying like, okay, here's your, high, mid, low quote, get it or whatever. And, good luck with it. Like you're taking them from, the $100 course or just the free YouTube video and walking them through as long as they want to go to, to use the churchy term, come alongside what they're doing. And like, because you actually believe, because I know that a tagline you've said is, a tech savvy, gospel centered worship, right? So like, that's a whole thing. It's not just buy our stuff from us, right? So I feel like that's the thing that's kind of, because the Holy Spirit, God is using this stuff. Just because it's like in a cool, YouTube way, it doesn't mean God's not connecting in a meaningful way. And obviously, as you leave these churches that you've worked on, whether you've, whatever capacity, they're taking that confidence from their updated situation and able to present the gospel in a more clear and concise way. Because I know that you've mentioned like literally physically, like you've fixed rooms that the pastor can now be heard more clearly. I mean, like, and that seems so like elemental, but like that's really important. If you literally can't understand what they're saying, how could you possibly be impacted by the power of the gospel in that situation? So I think it's so important. And one thing I was thinking about too, and I know I'm throwing a lot of random stuff at you, but I know that you're the guy to handle it, is obviously with the rise, with 260 plus thousand subs on, YouTube, and then 50,000 or whatever on Instagram, you're getting some haters, especially in the tech troll space. So, anyone listening.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to dig into that a little bit, because I know that like we can learn from other people's pain points because that's a relatable thing. Because someone might be like, man, I want to get 260,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. And the glory stuff is important, but also like that didn't come with a lot of gut punches and slaps and whatever, stuff. So like, how have you learned to manage kind of that? Because obviously too, spiritually speaking, the enemy hates what you're accomplishing through CHURCHFRONT and what God's doing through it. So you're getting attacked at a high level. The more visibility you get, the more haters you're going to get. So how have you kind of learned to deal with that and let it fuel you or, move you forward as you continue to grow?
Yeah. Step one, always make sure that you're leading and creating with actual virtue and good character, and you're not actually check your heart, make sure you don't have any sort of ill intentions and stuff in your creative process and your business processes. Like, just lead with integrity, right? Because it's like, when you know you're there, which that's where I'm at. It's like, I know that, like, it's actually almost kind of selfish too, because I know that the more integrity I like create and lead my business with, the actually more money I'm going to make, even if it comes to like the financial motivation of it. Because that's just the way I feel like God designed the world. It's like, if you try to make money being foolish and evil, that's going to last. It's going to be very fleeting. It's not going to last long. But to me, it's like, I want to build something that has a legacy for a long time. So it's like, lead with integrity, create with integrity, do business with integrity. And then when the haters come, it's just like, it just feels like kind of like swatting a fly away or something like that, or just ignore it. Just like, you'll see them in the comments all the time. Like, literally just today on one of our latest videos, it's blowing up and someone's like, this is what happens when a YouTuber tries to be an integrator. Right. And it's just like, I don't know what where that person's at or what they even mean by that. But I did tell them, it's like, yeah, you're right. And I'm documenting this process. Like, CHURCHFRONT is kind of manifesting itself to be an integrator by just doing it. Right. And like, there's not like some sort of like program you go through to be like, okay, you're a certified integrator now. It's like, you just do it. People are like, hey, put a new console in, hang some speakers, and then it just gets bigger and bigger, and then you kind of evolve. So there's people who will kind of try to poke the bear, so to speak, or like, haters going to hate no matter what. But early on, like, I started to experience that, especially because earlier on, I still don't know everything. And especially early on, I didn't know much, and I said stupid stuff or ignorant stuff, and people had the right to make fun of me or be a hater. But instead of stopping me, it just inspired me to learn more and just get better. And now it just doesn't bother me. I'm just so used to it. And time has kind of proven, like, I've, again, been leading and building with integrity. A lot of amazing things have happened. I'm very grateful for the fruit of it all and how God has blessed it. So it's really hard for me to take any hater comments seriously when I read those, even to this day.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because like I said, part of that is going to be a spiritual attack. But I think, and this is something that I've been doing recently myself, is, I used to be more, because my like peacemaker mentality is like, oh, well, even if they think I'm the worst, I hope that they're happy with the decision. And it's like, it's ridiculous. Like, but what I found is, like, when you create with, confidence, that is a big thing. Like, yeah, you may not know everything, but I'm sharing with you what I know. And yeah, I might learn something new. Because I remember you said some of your earlier videos, like, you saw that technology had moved beyond what you taught, and you just kind of removed them, or whatever you did with it. But like, you're like, we can't possibly know, because when you started making, filming weddings, you weren't like, I'm going to have an integration company one day. It's impossible to know that. But like, just being aware and, like you said, keeping your eyes fixed ahead is like, it helps you ultimately, because the purpose of a business is to fulfill needs, so obviously this is the next phase of, and it makes total sense, because, as you're doing, Waves LV1 console videos, and your, partnerships with all these different companies, like, that's how they're going to make money, is selling stuff. And if you are the guy who's documenting, putting stuff in churches, then it's a natural progression for you. Because I know, and I kind of want to talk about that a little bit too, is like, some of those like partnerships that have happened have really helped propel. I mean, I remember one of the first things to happen when we started working together is, DW hit you up with the e-kit, and they're like, hey. And we had talked, it's funny, because like, we had talked about, we should get that. You sent me a video, like, this would be fun to try out. And then you didn't even pursue it. And then they emailed you, the DW company, big dogs sent you a thing to try it out. And then the drums are sitting there at Rock Harbor for us to play around with. So like, how has that process been, as far as like, once companies started, which obviously didn't happen day one, but like, how has that kind of propelled what you're doing as other brands are starting to kind of get involved with what you're doing?
It's been fun. I love doing sponsored projects, especially with companies that I've been a fan with forever. Like, when I first was a creative, my first camera I bought was a Canon camera, and I thought that was a big deal. And now Canon does sponsored video projects with me. So they'll just send me what cameras I want to use. And like, I recently did a half-hour training video on YouTube, and I feel like it's probably one of the best like video operator or camera operator trainings out there now for churches for free on YouTube, because Canon made that possible, both sending me the gear to demo, and again, it just pays for my time to actually have time to sit down and make these videos, right? So that's been awesome. And then like yesterday, I get an email from a rep at a company. He's like, "Hey Jake, sign this NDA. Let's hop on a call. I want to tell you about this cool thing coming out here." And I'm like, "That's cool. Like it's legit a really cool product I'm excited about." So there's like that happens regularly too. And then I get to demo those things. So it feels like a cool privilege, to be honest, because I've always looked up to a lot of these companies, and it is kind of neat to be like, if I told myself 8 to 10 years ago that I'd be working with them in this way, I'd be like completely blown away by that. So I just see it as a privilege. And I do, what I like about CHURCHFRONT is I'm not dependent on sponsors. Like I really, because we have our own business model that works, because we do stuff, we have actual products and services we sell. So I feel like it even gives me a bit more of a neutral, opinion about these things, or I really get to choose working with the sponsors that I'm excited about working with. I'm not just like I get so many random emails all the time from random companies. I'm like, I don't know what this product is. I don't never want to talk about it. No, thank you. So it is fun kind of blending the media side of what we do, working with sponsors, but also we have the integration and the consulting side that pays our own bills. So it just gives us more flexibility.
This is something that we've definitely talked about. And, anytime I ever ask anything in my group about, what are your pain points? It's always not enough time, not enough money. Those are the things. And we know that. So you're a dad, you've got 4 kids, you've got, a wife, you've got houses, you do a lot of stuff. What has been, how do you balance that creative business? Because ultimately, whether you're running CHURCHFRONT or you're promoting your artistry or songwriting journey or whatever you're doing, like, it's a business, it's a brand, it's a thing. How do you make this work? And I know it's an ongoing process and none of us figured it out, but like, what are your strategies? What do you try to do to try to balance all of the CHURCHFRONT, all of the business stuff, and also being a sane human being that contributes to your family?
Yeah. As CHURCHFRONT has grown, I feel like earlier on, especially pre-kids, I was able to just, it was a lot easier to like work with hyper focus and extended hours. And definitely, that was a good time to start something. So I want to encourage anybody listening, like, if you are in a season of life pre-kids, like, take advantage of it. Like, if you're in your 20s, especially, like, just don't waste those years, because those can be really pivotal to start building something. And then later on, you're going to lose a lot of additional time because of the other commitments that end up coming up. But even when those commitments are there, and if you're in that season where you've got kids, it's just all about building better systems in your workflows. Maybe sometimes it means finding like what's the most valuable activity you can focus on economically, so that you could actually have enough cash flow to hire other people to do other activities within the business. I know not everybody's like in a business owner position like I am, but I think it applies to any context in life. Just really examining your day-to-day tasks, being like, what are the things that really only I should do? And how can I engineer my life and my finances to maybe outsource some of these other things or delegate some of these other things to other people, right? And that's where I do think in the creative space, there is a lot of opportunity for, especially creatives have skills that can get a pretty high pay for your time if you're in the right industry and serving the right people. Like, you can find better ways to leverage your time to make more money, to then free up more of your time for focused creative work to do what you want to do. Right. So that's kind of, it's not very practical. Some of the practical things I'm looking at, or I've been doing right now though, are, we actually got a phone box thing. I think the app is called ARO. So like we have this thing where we put our phones in a box as a family to like make sure we dedicate time to our family. Cause these are the things, the phones are what steal most of my attention from my family, because when you have 4 kids, 6 and under, running around a house, it's like scrolling Twitter or social media is kind of like an oasis of sanity almost amidst the chaos. But I'm learning I can put the phone away, embrace the chaos of the kids, and it's better off for everybody. Like
Yeah.
the more time you see, we all waste more time than we want to admit just scrolling the phones or just doing dumb passive activities like that. Right.
Yeah.
And then making sure you get starting with basic things like getting as much sleep as possible. And that's another thing, is keeping the phone in the box at nighttime so we can like sleep better. I'm not tempted to like scroll until I fall asleep, and that dramatically reduces sleep quality. So then
Yeah.
the next day I can have energy to be productive with the limited time I have.
Mm.
Um, so simple. I think a lot of it starts from these like simple habits. I'm reading the book, Habits of Highly Productive People or something right now. There's like 6
Mhm.
habits in the book, and you go check out the book yourself, because the author's like, basically there's no easy way. Like, you have to have discipline, and you have to be focusing on the right little habits every single day of your life. And that's going to make you a high performance person.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. Like, it doesn't matter if nobody's naturally super productive. You just have to put the time and work in, to be
Mm.
disciplined around these things. And then the other software app that's been really helping me out is Notion. It's kind of like project management, task management, calendaring, collaborating with your team. That's been really simplifying the chaos of my life. It's just
Mm.
software like that. We live in a better time than ever for these software tools.
That's awesome. I'll definitely link all this below for this stuff. But it's funny. I was very, I don't want to say against ChatGPT, but I thought it was like evil Ultron's going to take over the world. You know, the devil's doing it, whatever. Like, I was just being a little bit of an old man resistant to it. But I recently just started to use the tool for what it is, the tool. And I was actually in kind of what you're saying, like the way that we avoid chaos, or at least embrace chaos, is because we're actually scheduled. Because otherwise, like, I know for me, in my own entrepreneurial pursuits, like, if you don't have it on paper or if you don't have a plan, you're going to try to do it all at once. And then you're just digging a ditch that there's no bottom to, whatever. And you might get stuff done, but like you said, like, we can accidentally waste a lot of time because we're just spreading ourselves so thin, because you can't possibly, build a course, write a song, create content, lead worship, have a family all in the same day and do any of it well. So I love the idea of like dropping the box. But the ChatGPT thing that was funny is even the evil internet knows this, because I try to I wrote down a list of things for this. I was doing an experiment and see if it could help me create a list for the week of to-dos. And it literally said Monday night, after all the stuff, take 7 p.m. till bed, take time to be with your family. And I didn't even ask that or prompt that. So even the internet knows that that's what we should be doing, Yep. So I love that idea of like literally dropping your phone in a little box and say, I don't, and then, we have this thing where we feel it's part of that, like a dopamine addiction or whatever it's doing to us. It's like we feel like we have to have it at all times because that's the comfort zone. Like you said, Twitter is like we can focus on something that like we can control in that moment. But realistically, we don't need it at all. And it just is a diversion, and it does suck up so much of our time and energy. Because usually, obviously, we're doing this now with technology. It's great. We love CHURCHFRONT loves technology. We love technology, but also there's two sides to every coin. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And one thing I want to ask you, 2 more things. The next one I always like to ask this people is, what's a piece of advice you'd give to your younger self? I think it's so valuable. So this could be Jake 8 years ago. This could be 2 days ago. Younger self was literally 5 minutes ago. So whatever part of the journey you want to highlight. But is there any kind of thing that you wish you could tell your younger self and anyone listening?
I would tell my younger self that, man, I don't even know where to begin. But the part where it's just like, I think, man, especially when when you're in your 20s and you kind of have that really strong zeal about your worldviews and things like that, I'd just be like, dude, chill out. Like, it's just not. A lot of these things you feel like are such a huge deal. Don't get so worked up about it. Don't be so worked up if other people don't see things the way you do. It's just, people are going to be people. It's the way it is. Just kind of focus what's within your control, which is getting up every day, creating every day, serving other people every day, and great things will come of that.
Man, that'll preach right there. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, is like I've been wrestling with this recently as well, as like, what's the hurry? Right? Like I feel like that's a product of social media, is because we're able to see everyone's stuff at all times. We feel like we're constantly behind the curve. But the reality is that curve that's building that thought in our mind is literally just served to us by an algorithm that is completely unique to us and showing us what it thinks we want to see. And so like if you're going to be successful in whatever you're doing, like it's okay if it takes 3, 5, 10 years, because for one, you know, we're supposed to enjoy the journey, not the destination. I know that's a thing that people say, and it's like, but that's true. It's like, just enjoy the process. And two, like we have long lives, and yeah, we never know how long our lives are going to be. But in most cases, we live 80 or 90 years, you know, God willing. And so we don't have to rush. So letting go of that tension, I feel like allows us to focus on the things that actually bring us more joy. And I feel like that's, you know, that we're definitely aligned in that, because yeah, man, I mean, if you would have started trying to be an integrator on day one at CHURCHFRONT, it probably wouldn't have worked because you didn't have what you needed yet. You know, like God, I feel like God gives us what we need to do what he's called us to right now. We already have it. We don't need anything else to do what he's calling us to right now. We'll get it when we need it. But like, it's that stagism thing where it's like, if I only had that thing, then I could finally do the thing that's going to make me happy or feel fulfilled. But I just believe, like, so much so that we have everything we need right now to do what we need to do. So, man, last thing I want to ask you before, and I appreciate you doing this, man. This is fun. So what's something that you are excited about? What's something you're looking forward to, whether professionally, personally, whatever it is? What are you looking forward to, man?
I'm excited for time with my wife. Whenever we do date night, I think tonight we have a date night. I mean, those are the things I'm most excited about. It's just like peaceful time with my wife. I mean, we love our kids. I love time with kids, but that's what the most like. My soul yearns for peaceful time with a wife. I yearn for surfing. I want to get back to Florida so I can go surfing again. You guys have some nice swells coming from the storms.
Come on.
Simple things, man. I'm excited about going for a walk in the morning with the sunshine. That's what's great. It's like the more I keep building in my life and cool things keep happening, I'm like, wow, the best things in life really are free, and you just got to make time for them. Sometimes it might actually cost money to make the time to do the free things, but it's at least like the best things in life truly are free. But I'm excited about every new project we have coming on with CHURCHFRONT. It's like a new challenge for our team, and we learn new things every single time, every single day. So I'm endlessly excited about that. And then I'm excited about our event when we get everybody together, and I'm trying to make this 2-day conference as cool as possible. Part of that is having you come to it. So October 1st and 2nd, shameless plug for CHURCHFRONT Conference. You guys are more than welcome to come. Just go to churchfront.com/conference to learn more.
Yeah, I will definitely drop that, because this is definitely going to come out before the conference. So hopefully we pick up some new people to come hang out with us. I mean, I haven't been to Colorado since I was like 12 years old. So I'm ready to come back. And I mean, it's just going to be a lot cooler, I bet, than it is right here, right now. So glad we were able to do this. I know we've been talking about it for a while. It's like we could have done it in person when you were here, but it just, I don't know. Sometimes it's almost easier to do things remotely like this. So, you know, definitely thanks for sharing all the insights and wisdom. I know people are going to get a ton out of this. And before we go, I always like to pray with people. So let me pray for us before we go. God, thank you so much for Jake. Thanks so much for his just contribution to how you're building your church through this kind of modern era. God, we know that you can use technology, and you do use technology in amazing ways to reach people. And if you called us to share the gospel, what a cool way we get to do this in 2024 and beyond, through technology, through, you know, all the ways that you've called us to do that. God, we just pray for continued encouragement and inspiration to Jake as he plans through ChurchFront and all the things you have ahead, that we know the best stories are yet to tell, God. And we're excited for that. We thank you for calling him to be a part of that. And we thank you for his stewarding of this well with integrity and with purpose and passion, God. We also thank you for his family. And that's a support system. And the reason that he's doing all this stuff is to create, legacy for them as well, and giving them options and freedom to serve you in the way that you've called them to do that too, God. We thank you for all the things that are ahead, Lord. And we thank you for our time together, and that anyone who hears this feels encouraged and inspired to go out there and do the creative work that you called them to. In your name we pray, amen.